can hear
everyone.
you.
My name is Kendra Larson, and this is Archer Gallery Art Talks. Today, we have the great privilege to be speaking with artist Jeremy Okai Davis about his work. And we're also lucky to have student Eli Noesen here to interview Jeremy. So I will let you to take it from here. Eli.
Hey, Eli.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. First off, I saw the artwork with the baseball player, and um like it was in the art gallery, and I thought it was really cool. And I'm a photographer, so I was like, oh, I should probably like take a photo of this, and I thought it was really cool. And some of my questions was like, what sports did you play? Like what made you want to do like artwork of sports?
Well, growing up, I was, I always made art from the time I was a little kid, and like most kids do, just draw and mess around. And I did just that probably until, I mean, forever. But when we moved to a different house. Actually, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I guess to
Oh,
go
no
backwards.
way.
Yeah.
I used to live in Charlotte.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I moved here in '07, but yeah, I spent the first 27 years of my life in Charlotte. But so when I turned 8, the Charlotte Hornets showed up, the basketball team, and like I automatically fell in love with basketball from that point. But even before that, my dad was a basketball coach. I have an uncle that played in the NBA and a cousin that played in the NBA. So basketball was like kind of my thing from the
Really
start.
cool.
Like even more so than art for the first like 18 years of my life up until college. I played 1 year in junior college and kind of fell out of love with basketball due to the kind of demands. There were some pretty hardcore demands for college athletes, and I just didn't have the love for it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I play soccer here at Clark, and
Oh, nice.
it's very time consuming.
It's very difficult, yeah. And you have to kind of like really, really love it. And I just wasn't in that place. So yeah, I mean, you asked. So basketball was like the main thing that I played growing up, and I mean, I've always been. I'm just a fan of sports in general: football, baseball, any sort of sports. I watch a little bit of soccer, not a ton, but a little bit of soccer. So yeah, just that sport has always been in my life, athletics, and for a long time, I've tried to figure out a way to kind of coalesce the two of those, like bring the two passions together. And the title of the show, A Good Sport, was something that I was like kind of embedded into me for a long time, like as a young kid, and then just as an athlete, to be a good sport to your like fellow teammates and other teams, and just being a good sport in general. So, and it always felt like an interesting term to me, just to say that or ask somebody to be that way. And just in the last couple of years, probably the last 5 years, I thought about it more as a something that I could delve into regarding my art and try to dig into the kind of the history of Blacks in athletics and kind of play on the idea of African Americans having to be a good sport just in society in general. So I was kind of playing with that kind of duality when I started this series.
Do you remember what was like your first piece of art?
The first first art that I actually like remember hanging on to and well, two things. I mean, when I was really little, I drew a lot with my brother, and I'm an '80s baby, so I watched a lot of Transformers and G.I. Joe, and my brother and I would make up our own Transformers. Like that was like the main thing that we would do for like when we got home from school, we'd watch it, and then like TV would go off and we would just draw Transformers for a couple hours. So that's the first thing I remember drawing and like actually like really trying hard to make look cool. But it was probably high school that I did my first like painting that like stuck with me and felt like, oh, I could probably be pretty good at this. And it was a painting of Busta Rhymes, the rapper. I would get the Source magazine, it's like an old hip hop magazine, and just try to paint like the images, like the cool images out of that magazine. And I did this one of Busta Rhymes that I remember really like after I finished it, I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at painting. So that's the first one that I remember like actually hanging on to, and I hung it at the house at my parents' house and was really proud of it.
That's really cool. So like what made you want to like paint and all of that? Like
Uh,
would you just say because of your like brother and like you just thought it would be fun? And
I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, it was just like something to do, you know, as opposed to watching TV or going outside. We draw a lot. So I just like most kids, I just like drawing. But I would say high school is when I started, like that painting I did at Busta Rhymes. And then my high school art teacher, his name was Mr. Somi, Hans Kelly Somi. He was an artist himself. He was a sculptor. And in ninth grade, I took art classes, but I kind of just took them because like I kind of liked art and it seemed like an easy class to take. But he kind of saw something in me, like even during that time of not really caring that much about art, to like really push me to like pursue it or actually like try harder. So from 10th grade on is when like I really decided that I like wanted to like make art and like try to show art, and felt like something that I was actually good at that I could pursue and go to college for. So yeah, it's probably 10th grade that I
that's super
decided
cool.
that I wanted to do art.
That's like really cool that like you found something and you wanted to like pursue it for like a majority of your life.
Yeah, yeah. I've been pretty dedicated to like being an artist in some regard since probably 10th grade or so. And then, you know, like I was saying, the basketball and art were kind of like they kind of went back and forth. And it was mostly basketball all through high school. And then I went to college at this school called Brevard College in right outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And I was in the art department at that school, but I was also playing basketball. And the time came towards the end of that year that I had to decide what I really wanted to pursue and what I could see as something that I could do for the rest of my life. And it was art. And I left that school, went back to Charlotte, and enrolled at UNC Charlotte. And that's where I got my degree.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So so I from me being a photographer, I know that I have to like build a portfolio and I have to present myself to people. How did that like how did you get into like what was the first thing that made you want to go to do you have to go to someone and like present yourself and show your portfolio, or did someone see your artwork and be like, who's this artist?
As far as like after school, like getting like galleries
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, after school.
It's been a long road for me. You know, after I graduated in what was it 2002, I stuck around Charlotte for a little bit, and I mean, it was a different time. Like to say it out loud, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, which is crazy. And no Instagram, no social media. So it was really just like making the art. I mean, barely. Hold on, I got a cough. I'm gonna mute. It was barely like any sort of internet to like promote yourself. So I was basically like just in my parents' house, just making art. And there was like a First Friday event that we had in Charlotte, and that was probably the first time I ever like shown my work outside of school and like at my house and to my friends and family. And I remember it was a recreation of like a old like white bread ad that I repainted like kind of pop art style.
Yeah.
And I took it to this gallery and hung it that afternoon. And I was gonna go out and like see it hung, and I was super excited to see it hung. And the guy that David French was the guy's name, the guy that ran, it was at his house, is in his like in his living room in the back of his house, and he would turn it into a gallery for this first Friday event. And he called me before I got there. Like, oh, I remember thinking that was like, I mean, it was kind of a bummer because I didn't get to see it hung, but it was also like super empowering to like have my first piece that I hung in a gallery per se get sold. So I think from that point forward, I kind of realized like, oh, I could like make these paintings that I dig in my house or studio and put them on walls and people will like them. So I just really pushed hard to get my work up as much as possible from an early age, and in front of people in IRL, you know, like in real life versus, and I use that mantra, like I did that like up until the time I came to Portland. I just showed my work as much as possible. And like people would see it and see the work, but they'd also see the focus and kind of dedication to showing the work. And from there, people, it seemed like people just kind of got on my side. And long story short, like dedication to the work, showing the work as much as possible, got galleries and other curators to like pay attention to me and ask me to be in shows, and I would just show as much as I could. And that was kind of my sort of advertising, is just being in front of people and in front of putting my art in front of people as much as possible.
That's really cool. What did your family like think about you being an artist?
Oh, they, you know, they didn't care. Like it wasn't like they weren't against it or necessarily for it, but I think they're I don't know. They were for, like I knew that they liked that I was doing something that brought me joy. I think there was some apprehension, like joining the painting department at UNC Charlotte after I left Brevard, like playing basketball. Kind of what are you going to do, like with a painting degree? And what I did, so I got my degree in painting, but I also took a bunch of graphic design classes when I was there.
Oh, really?
Like for myself, because I like in my head I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get a job, which was kind of pressed into me from a young age. But like both my parents were teachers, and I saw them go to work. My dad was a basketball coach, teacher. He worked with his brother in an upholstery shop, so I just saw like work happening all the time in my house. My parents were always leaving for work, coming home from work. So when I got into the painting department, or got into UNC Charlotte, my head was also in a place that I needed like a 9 to 5. So I took a bunch of graphic design classes, and I've worked a 9 to 5 job like since I graduated. I still like I'm on the clock right now at my day job while I'm doing this in my studio. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
I'm also trying to do graphic design as a major. Like, what would be some wisdom or words of advice for like being a graphic designer slash photographer?
You know, like I said, I finished in 2002, and I work mostly in print media. I think in a way, I kind of feel like a dinosaur when it comes to graphic design, because I don't know how to do website digital media. It's really just like what we do at my job is like a direct mail coupon book. It's like pretty boring work, but at the same time, I was able, again, like I said, there wasn't like Instagram or like social media. So my knowledge with graphic design was helpful for knowing what I wanted my website to look like when I worked with the people that built it. And then also like making show cards and just like any sort of like graphic design that went along, like business cards. I would always have business cards. And this kind of goes back to like the like how I presented myself. I would make show cards for every single show I did once I got to Portland, and I would mail them to all the galleries that I wanted to show in Portland. I'd look on the internet and find like galleries in New York City, and just like whatever gallery looked cool and seemed like a place that I wanted to show. Design kind of helped in that way, that I was trying to make like a graphic images and graphic postcards that kind of drew attention to me as an artist. But yeah, so I think, yeah, as a photographer, I mean, definitely graphic design would play a big part in what you're trying to do. So yeah, that's a good idea to stick with that.
So, you said you only worked with like paintings, right? And you did
Yeah, in
graphic
school, yeah, I
design?
was just painting and graphic design. I took some photography classes, and I do a little bit of photography, but um, I kind of got left behind in that as well because I still shoot film, and it's very expensive now to buy film and get it developed. So I kind of fell back on
Yeah.
taking pictures, but I used to take a lot of pictures. So photography, painting, I draw. I mean, just really any sort of art medium that's calling to me, I'll do. But it's really just the paintings that I show.
Okay. What was your like first medium that you worked with, and what was your favorite medium to work with?
I mean, it was really always just painting. Like, so like speaking of media, like when I got to UNC Charlotte, I took an oil painting class,
Mhm.
um, and it was so difficult for me. Like it was my first time painting, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how it worked, and I hated the class so much. And then the next class I took was it was a I don't even know what it might have been an abstract. I can't remember the type of class it was, but we worked with just acrylics, and that made so much more sense to me. How quickly the paint dried, and I could layer, and I could finish the work a lot quicker. So from that point forward, I just worked with acrylic paint. So everything I do is like painting wise is it acrylic based or watercolor, some sort of quick drying medium. So acrylic paint is like my first and uh, basically my love.
Okay, that's really cool. Um, Shoot, I had one question. It was mostly about like, so your artwork is about sports, and um, you also incorporate like, people, colors, and like the past and everything.
Mhm.
What would like define your art? Like, what makes your art so unique compared to like other people? Because there are loads of artists, and there are people who will do similar things to you. What
Yeah.
defines your art different from others?
The main thing that I think people see, like technique wise, is like if the work that's at Archer right now, like if you look closer, not even close, you can see that I use kind of a pointillistic style of painting with the portraits. I don't really blend the paint, so that like kind of pixelated style of painting has kind of been a calling card of sort. Like when people ever like see the work, like see a painting that looks like it's worked in that way, even if it's not mine, people will like send me a picture of it, like, oh, is this yours? So I think like there's that. Like that's probably the main thing that differentiates my work. But like you said, there's a ton of painters, like a lot of artists, and there's a lot that are way better than me and do way more interesting things than me. But um, again, I think the volume of work that I've made and the amount that I've attempted to show um, helps. Like a lot of people see the work,
Mhm.
so I think it stands out in that way because there's been so much of it. But it also, yeah, I think there's a certain amount of uh, care that I give to the portraits and the people that I paint. That's I've been told, I hate like talking about myself this way, but I've been told that it comes across like the care or the thoughtfulness that I give to the subjects that I paint comes across when the work is seen. Um, so I'm thinking about that now that I've heard that. I'm thinking about that as I'm painting, and I'm being really considerate to the people that I'm painting and to the stories of the people that I'm trying to paint, in hopes that that comes across to the viewer as much as it's coming across to me as I'm working on it or doing my research. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a certain amount of um, passion maybe that comes out of the pieces. You can maybe see the dedication to wanting to be considerate to the people that comes out in the work. So I think that probably differentiates like the care that I give to the people and to the paintings.
Yeah, that's really cool. And your artwork is really good. Like I really like it, and it has a lot of meaning. It's like something that I would want to like take a photo with and like put like a quote or something with it. And I had like a question about one of your artwork. It's like a blue painting with like um the Celtics player and like another player, and then there was the news people in there. But then what was really interesting was like the top left of your painting had like a red, green, and black, I think. Kind of like I was wondering if that's like a symbol for like a flag or something.
Yeah, it's I was so in that piece, that's Bill Russell is the subject of that painting. The piece is called Summit. Um, it's one of the two that are up at Archer. Um, and in that piece, so Bill Russell was what people say was the first Black superstar in the NBA. And as long as I've like been around and played basketball, you hear about Bill Russell, which he unfortunately passed away while I was working on that piece actually last year. Um, but he was also like um, a really big advocate for social justice, especially in the Boston area. Um, so I was trying to play like with the duality of his kind of mountain-like status as an athlete, but also that same mountain status as a public figure when it comes to social justice and Black African American rights. So in the piece, you can see that he's kind of like reaching upward and in a way kind of forming this like side of a mountain. So that was the idea behind keep having him in the piece. I'm not looking at it right now, but the subject in the bottom is Elgin Baylor, he was just in the image. He's another Black basketball player from back then. The news people that you reference, those are actually I'm trying to think who's in it. Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The three of them and a few other athletes came together in support of Muhammad Ali when he got drafted to go to the Vietnam War, but didn't go. There was something they had called the Cleveland Summit. So that image of those four athletes is from that Cleveland Summit, which again kind of plays with the idea of just kind of the two words, a summit, as like summiting a mountain or the gathering of people. So that's why they're there. And then the stripes of color are the African flag color, just the black, red, and green are just colors that kind of represent Africa. And in the image of the four people, I kind of played with those same colors with their ties throughout. So yeah, it was just like a little nod to African Americans in the piece and the strength that we have and togetherness that is needed to summit the mountain that we've been attempting to summit for so long.
That's really cool. I didn't even think about the whole mountain part.
Yeah.
But I saw the flag, and the background was the flag too.
Yeah.
And I noticed the basketball players, and I didn't really go into like figuring out who they were specifically in the news group.
Yeah.
But that's like really cool, and it says a lot, and there's like a lot of meaning that
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm glad that you could sense that, but also you saw like value in just the painting as a painting. Like because I really think about that too, is just making a good painting that you could walk past and just like be into it as like a body of work or like a piece of art, but also if you wanted to delve deeper, you can ask questions. And there is a story behind most of the work I do. But the quality of the work is just as important, because if it wasn't a good painting or wasn't an interesting painting, then those questions probably wouldn't come, and I wouldn't be able to talk about it.
Yeah, like I love looking at art because I like to look for things of like either marks that they made that have a significant value, and it makes you wonder like, was this intentional? What, but then you think of art, everything you do is not a mistake, it has a purpose. And
Yeah.
it just, when I look at yours, it was like everything had a purpose, and it was really cool. And I was wondering like, what makes you, what's your favorite thing like about painting and like all that?
Oh man, like my favorite thing about painting is just painting, like the actual act of doing it, like taking this whatever medium I'm using. Just speaking specifically about paint, it's just taking these tubes of paint and turning that into paintings of people. Just that transition from like squirting the tube on my palette to it going onto the canvas and then eventually turning into something that's actually something. It's just like, it's a lot of fun. Like I just really enjoy that. But then on top of that, being able to relay some sort of information or message to people is also really fun, and keeps me doing it. The idea of making this work that I'm doing like research for, like curiosities that I have about people, about topics. The act of painting is kind of my way of educating myself and like finding out about things that I don't really know about, you know. So that's also fun. I mean, it's the whole thing. Like every step of it is enjoyable in a different way. I love showing the work and like the art opening, like going to art openings and chatting with people after being like locked away in the studio for months working on stuff. Like unleashing the work to the public. That's always really exciting, which was kind of what the pandemic was, such a difficult time
Yeah,
for making work. Like I was making the work, but a lot of it wasn't getting seen in the way that I was used to. So yeah, just the social element of being an artist is really exciting and keeps me doing it. It's just everything. Like I just love the act of painting and love the act of being an artist. It's just a cool thing.
that's really cool.
Um, you're in your studio right now, yes?
I am, yeah.
And it looks like, I mean, you have part of your new body of work behind you.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And is it possible for you to give us a little preview of, where you are with that body of work? And
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know how much.
as long as it's because
it's fine.
yeah, I mean, I've seen a few pieces of your process on Instagram, but it's always really exciting to see a painter in process.
They're very large, so it's hard to have them anywhere else but right behind me. But yeah, these are the two subjects in these paintings are the fella here is Ben Johnson, who was one of the original like Black Oregonians. I've been commissioned to do a couple of paintings for the Salem Arts Association, and of African American Black pioneers to Oregon. And these will be, I think, exhibited in February, just these two pieces at the Bush Barn in Salem. So yeah, Ben Johnson. And then this one here is Beatrice Morrow Kennedy, who is an arts advocate, American. She was a publisher, like a newspaper person in the early like 1915 to 1930. She ended up moving to LA, but she did a lot for African Americans, artists in town. She would have parties at her house and invite artists from all over the country, all over the world, to have these like arts events at her house. So I wanted to include her just for that like kind of art advocacy side of things. But yeah, these are two, they're both, what are they, 48 by 60, so both pretty large pieces. Yeah, they'll be exhibited next month, and actually doing a talk at the Bush Barn. I can't remember the date, but it's mid-February sometime about these. Yeah.
Exciting.
I agree. Yeah, it's so last year I had the Good Sports show at Leach Gallery, and that took a good chunk of my year working on that. So I've kind of been taking it easy. I have this project, and then there's a couple things kind of on the back burner that may come, may not come. So yeah, this is the main thing that I'm working on at the moment.
That's really cool. I think that's all I wanted to ask. Your artwork is really cool, and it made me like it was really cool. I really liked the painting with the Celtics player, and like it made me like think a whole lot.
Yeah,
And
cool.
I will definitely be taking a photo and some photos in there, because they have a lot of value and they have a lot of meaning. And as a athlete, it would be a lot. I think your artwork is really good.
Cool, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing some of your photos.
Yeah, I will try to tag you and try to put your name in there and as like credit for everything.
Appreciate it, man.
Of course.
Cool. Any other questions? Did you have any, Kendra or Carson, anything else?
I was gonna say I put a link to some of your artwork in the chat for everybody, and I'll put a link to the Bush Barn show as well. I was going to ask about maybe the surface quality of your pieces are so luscious. Do you want to speak to that process at all? I know it's hard to see via Zoom, but
Yeah, I mean that's something that I really think about as I'm working, and I've always, well, I wouldn't say always. I think the more experience I've got at acrylic paint, and the more I've enjoyed it, the more I want to experiment and play with like different mediums. And I think that desire to play with mediums and play with the paint makes me want to make it very clear that that's what I'm doing for the viewer. So I really think about like the edges, like the texture. Like if you see it, like I almost want it to be like something that you'd want to touch in a way. Like I want it to like come out. Like I don't want it to be just like a flat, smooth thing. Like we get enough of that, I feel like, on social media, seeing the pieces. So when you go to an art show or see my work or see work in person, I feel like I want people to get a little bit more. It's like a little Easter egg in a way when you see the work. Is like, another thing I think about is, for me, when I go and see a show, I get slightly disappointed when I see a work that's just like super slick to touch, almost like something like ripped out of a magazine. Like I want to see that. I want something new. I want something else when I see work in person. I want to like get on the side of the piece and like be exposed to something different. I want like light to hit it in different ways. So thinking about the texture, that's something that I really consider, is viewing the work from all sides and not just right on, and getting a little bit more in person than you would from seeing an image of it.
Yeah, I love it. I see a few hands up. Would Kyle like to go first and then Rennie?
Yeah, sure thing. So got the chance to go in and see your work, and I noticed that a lot of the source material for your work is probably in black and white based on the historical figures and everything.
Yeah.
So you have like a tremendous amount of artistic license to pick your colors.
Mhm.
And that's not an accident. So can you give us like a walkthrough, maybe an example of a painting where you feel like you used your own personal color theory to really bring your subject to life?
Oh, so yeah, a lot of the work in that show. There's some more recent images in there that had some color to it, but there's one in the Good Sports show that I did of a horse jockey, and that image was completely black and white. And I really like, as a graphic designer, as an artist, I think about how colors like play with each other and look like what emotions and feelings you're getting from a piece. So when I saw that image, for some reason, like I didn't see a color piece, but it wasn't a color image, but for some reason I saw him wearing like a lavender purple shirt. So that's what I painted. And then I thought about like what color would make that lavender pop more. So I used this kind of mint green in the background. So yeah, I just really consider like how colors interact and jump off the wall, and how people receive those colors as I'm painting. And then as far as the portraits and the colors I use in the portraits, it's kind of just like I've been doing it so long, painting people so long, color images so long, that it's just in the back of my head what colors it's going to take to bring an image out, to the point that I don't even really think about it anymore. I've had a few people in my studio that noticed that, like these two pieces have the reference photos are on the wall. You can't really see them here, and they're black and white. And yeah, I just don't even consider it. I just know like what colors it takes to make it look like an African American, or a light skin or dark skin or white person. And one thing that I like to talk about is the idea that this choice of colors that I use is basically the same no matter the race of people. And you can see that when you see the pieces up close, that there's just more of one color that makes it the other, makes it whatever race or look like a certain person. And that's something that I've always thought, that I think about when I'm doing the work, is that it kind of speaks to the idea that we're all kind of like built from the same materials. So it's like kind of a nod to that we kind of are all the same in a lot of ways. So yeah. Did that answer your question? Or
yeah, and like it even goes into the color blocking that you do in some of your pieces, where you have like the stripes going through, or like the chevrons. I think it was the sepia.
Oh yeah.
I really like those. Those were like a little bit different than what I saw at the exhibit. And I was researching it before this call. I was like, wow, like you got some range, buddy. That was awesome.
Yeah, the different like techniques and devices and how I use portraits or imagery or color kind of changes depending on the series of work. Those pieces, the sepia stuff, and I did this body of work that was all based around Shirley cards and African American women, for the most part, in magazines from like the 50s and 60s. So there's a lot of like graphic design thoughts that came into my mind as I was working on them. So like the color bars and color blocking, and is kind of a reference to like print media.
Okay.
So
yeah, thank you so much. You answered all my questions. I appreciate it.
Cool, no problem. Thanks for the question.
And then Rennie, do you have a question?
Yeah, actually I have two questions.
What's up, Rennie?
Hey, Jeremy. My first question is, like, since you're doing pixel type paintings, are you like incorporating and thinking about like how far in the distance, like how it'll change and look like more realistic from further away, and then you get close and it's still like realistic because of like how you made it and thought it out?
Yeah, well, let me answer that before you ask the second one, so I don't forget. But yeah, I do think about that. Like So when I did my first like body of work, is what I want to call it, around 2005, I wanted to do like multiple paintings, like 10 paintings or whatever that could be seen as a body of work. And at that time, the only thing I had available was some like old photos that I'd taken, and they were just little tiny images on the computer that I printed and blew up as I printed them. So when I printed them, like the pixels started to show, and I just thought that was really interesting. So I basically just recreated that when I was doing the painting, is trying to like paint the pixels, and in a way, that's how I taught myself how to paint people. So yeah, I do think, and so that's where the pixels came from. But yeah, I do like the idea of standing far away and it looking like a smooth, kind of traditional portrait from afar. But the closer you get, the more information you get out of the subjects and out of the painting. So it's kind of this push-pull. Like I want people to move closer, get as close as they want to the piece, or as close as they can to like see the pixelation. And when you see it, the closer you get, the more abstracted it gets. It becomes like a whole other thing. So it's just part of. I think about it as part of like the part of the viewing experience for the people in the gallery. Is like you can back up and stand afar for 10 minutes and enjoy the painting, and then you can spend another 10 minutes up close, like just analyzing and investigating some of the pixelation and abstract elements of the piece. So yeah, I really consider that when I'm working on a piece.
Yeah. Okay, so the second one is do you only focus on like important people and like events in history right now, or have you always done that?
No, when I like I said, that first body of work, the photos I had, they were paintings of friends. And I did that, like just painted the images that I had on hand, probably up until like 2013, 2014 or so. And just worked with portraits in that way, and kind of just learned how to paint people in that way. It wasn't until probably 2014, 2015, that I like started looking outside of myself in my own circle for images of people and stories of people that were maybe lesser known and not necessarily like well-known people. Like I was really interested in and a lot of the work is like trying to tell the story of people that aren't as well known and weren't as well known to me, kind of in a way to like educate myself and kind of course correct some of the lack of relevancy for some African Americans in history. So that's like the last like 3 or 4 years I've been doing that, and then yeah, from probably 2015 on, I've been trying to like excel and push the idea of more Black people on gallery walls or in museum walls, and just try to normalize seeing those faces in places that maybe weren't as seen.
That's great, because then you're like teaching the important history that people should know, but you know, weren't taught.
Yeah, and including myself. So yeah, it's like a twofold thing where I'm getting to delve into these people's stories and learning, and at the same time I'm educating as much as I can.
Yeah, and your work like, catches the eye, and it's like also, just great from each distance. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saying so. Thanks for the questions, Rennie.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of highlighting other people, local artists, are there any artists that you want to mention right now?
Oh, here in town, or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the show yet. I'm gonna go see it tomorrow when I go to the gallery. But Sarah C. Stream has a show up at Elizabeth Leach Gallery right now, and she's a good friend of mine, kind of a mentor in a way. Like when I first, I think I met her in like 2010, And she's always been just like a hardworking artist, and I saw that. So whenever there's like a big decision that I need to make as far as an artist, like I'll hit her up. But I haven't seen it in person, but it looks amazing. The images I've seen. So Sarah Seastream is one that I love. Pace Taylor is an artist that I really love. They're represented by National Gallery now and have a print up that's available. There's a lot.
So I put you on the spot.
Jeremy Stewart is the artist that I really love. Icho, I don't know if anybody knows Icho. He's a mural artist in town that I've known since I moved here. Super productive, great artist.
And you have a mural, right?
Yeah. I have one that's been like kind of wrecked. It was downtown across from Powell's.
Oh.
They're doing something to that building. That the store that used to be there, I think, is getting leveled or something. So it's all fenced in, but it got like tagged up pretty bad during the pandemic. And then there's another one in Milwaukee on the water reservoir in Milwaukee. Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking. That was the one I was thinking about. So yeah.
Yeah, that one turned out pretty good. Yeah. That's not my mural painting isn't like once I like get up there doing it, I really enjoy it. But when I think about the actual act, I'm not super stoked on it. Like it's so daunting to me, but like it turned out good. And it was like a nice, like I'm used to being in my studio making work. So being out like in public and people stopping by and being able to talk about the work and the people as I'm working on it was different. So that was like an exciting part of it. Yeah.
What was the mural of?
What's that?
What was the mural of?
So it's downtown Milwaukee, and the city commissioned me to do it, and they mostly wanted to highlight this guy named Ob Bing, who was a farmer in Milwaukee. He worked on a cherry farm, and I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he worked on the Seth Llewellyn, I think was the fellow's name, worked on his farm. He was a Chinese man that basically he created the Bing cherry as like the most well-known cherry, but he left to go back to China and wasn't able to come back to the States. So during the Exclusion Act, and they wanted to honor him. So I did a painting of him, and included in that painting is another couple, an African-American couple that had the first Black-owned bakery in Oregon. So they're on the piece as well. Yeah. I don't have any images readily available right here, but yeah, I think looks like they just got put in the chat.
Yeah, sorry that I can't share my screen, but I did put the link to that mural on there. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, are you going to do any more murals in the future?
There's nothing in my queue at this point. I think, the one I did downtown, I did in 2017. I did the last one in 2021. So I think in a couple years, I'd probably have the capacity to get back up on a lift. It's not the most comfortable place for me to be. So every few like years, maybe 5 years, I'll do one. But yeah, there's nothing on my radar right now. But I do. The process is fun. It's just like coaxing myself to do it. It's the difficult part.
Awesome. Are there any other questions from anyone? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking me to do it. I hope I was informative.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And if anybody hasn't seen the show, come by and see the show at the Archer Gallery Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5.
Yeah. How much longer is it up, by the way?
Saturday is the last day.
Oh, really? Okay.
And OHS2 is coming to pick up one of your paintings on Monday. So.
Oh, Got it. Yeah, well, I haven't even been up to see it, so I'll have to make it up there. So thank you for having me on the show. I've gotten
it's
some good
been
feedback
wonderful.
from people. So
Thank you so much.
yeah.